All right, greetings. We are now officially live. I hope everybody can hear me okay. If there's any audio issues, please let me know, especially any echo or anything like that. Once again, trying out a new mic, worst possible time to try something new. We are going to go over we're going to continue to go over the timeline. So as we do that, we have, whoops, there you go. I can hear myself in the monitor. So we have Sophia and Catherine have both joined us here, and William Rail obviously is going to be joining us here too for this part two. Last time we didn't really get that far. We made it to page two in 2 hours, so 1 hour per page. We didn't even really finish page two, so it's really like a page and a half. So I want to welcome Sophia and Catherine. Hope you both are doing well, and thank you both for joining us here. I really appreciate that.
Well,
Um,
thanks, Greg.
Absolutely. I'm going to pull up this timeline here, and we're going to go over this. So it says Control L, right? Is what I need? No. Okay. Sorry. Just wait 1 second. I want to thank everybody in the chat room for joining us. Iconic Meerkat, Buzzing, and everybody else who is tuning in. I really appreciate everyone joining in this live chat. And we're going to go over, if anyone in the chat room has any questions, any comments, anything, please let us know, and we will try to make sure that we also cover those as well. So what I'm going to do here is, let's see, Control L, bum, 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 bum. And Sophia and Catherine, I hope you can both see my screen here. I'm going to transition this, and
Yep, I
now
see
the
it.
public will be able to see our screen right here. So what we have is the Crowley family timeline of important events, and obviously this is an ongoing thing. Also, if anybody has any thoughts or anything that we should add to this, please let us know if there's something that we missed, something that we got wrong, something that needs to be added, changed, etc., etc. Please let us know, and we can always add that into this timeline. But um, this is a very strange case, a very important case, and there are just so many aspects to this case. So I know Dan Hennon created the first timeline, and then William Rail went and kind of has helped to expand on that, and that has really encouraged me and encouraged other people to try to contribute to that. So if you have something to contribute to this timeline, please let us know. You can find this in the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group in the file section. It's also on my website, thegraystage.wordpress.com. I've added a whole post that is just going to have everything tied into the timeline, the first timeline, the new timeline, anything that we talk about, and the actual timeline. So any updates, you'll be able to find those quickly, and hopefully that will help everybody in their research. But last time we really started at the very start, and we went from 1985 when David Crowley was born, when Kamel was born, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. I don't know how relevant a lot of this would be. So it's kind of like, what do we include? What do we not include? I don't know, Catherine, Sophia, if you have any thoughts on that. Are there things that we should always include? Are there things that maybe we shouldn't include? Should it just be related to the murders? Or are we trying to document their whole life here? What do you think?
Uh, I honestly don't know. I mean, any little bit of information could be important.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind
and I
of.
think it
Go
could
ahead.
go either way.
Hmm.
I think it helps having all the information, but then it also could be distracting. It just depends on what an individual's looking for.
That's a great point. So yeah, like obviously the first thought is kind of like, well, less is actually more, but then it's like, well, what is less to me? What is less to other people? So maybe it's better to have everything here, and whatever people think is actually relevant, they can just focus on that. Right
Yeah.
now, William has it down to 37 pages, or up to 37 pages.
Holy moly.
This is going to grow. There's no doubt, because I've already told him, hey, there's stuff in here that I think we can add from 2006 to like 2009. No doubt we can add those things in there. So this should be interesting. I want to say hi to Crip Rick, who is also joining us in the live chat room here. All of you should know Rick by now. If you have not subscribed to Rick's YouTube channel, it is Crip Rick's I've Been Thinking, and he's got a lot of great content. Just had a great interview with Russell, and always enjoy hearing Russell's thoughts. A very feisty guy there. And then he did one the other day with Steven Sanziri, and I know he's got a lot more coming up here too. So I won't spoil any of his future shows that he has coming. But Rick also does a show every Monday on freedomslips.com, Revolution Radio. And that is a live 2-hour show. It is a radio show. It's the old school, awesome. It's totally just like the old radio format that I was used to when I was growing up. So no edits, no cuts, nothing like that. And then they also take breaks, which I think is really cool. So anyways, check that out too on freedomslips.com. And as far as anything between 1990 or 1985 and 2009, I don't know if Sophia, if Catherine, if either of you have any thoughts about anything in this timeline. If you've looked at this timeline here, there's some interesting stuff here. One of the things that you may be interested in, or you may want to have a comment on, is September 18th, 2009, when Kamel's dad creates an AT&T cell phone account for David Crowley. That's pretty interesting, because it kind of shows some things that I've been hearing, how close David was to Kamel's family. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. As far as I know, I have a father-in-law, I mean, he has since passed or whatever, but I don't think he would pay for my cell phone bill or buy me a cell phone. I think that's pretty cool. It shows how close they are.
Oh yeah, I agree. Because there's no way, even with my children's spouses. There's, I mean, I love my kids to death, and their spouses are amazing, but even with that, I wouldn't go pay for their accounts. I'd be like, you're on your own. If you can't afford it, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, and that's of course that changes later on, and we'll definitely get there. But I just thought that was a nice note there, that he would
Absolutely. I
pay
mean,
for
this,
that.
like you said, there's if there was animosity to the degree that some are saying, there's no way why would they? Even though they would love their daughter, they would have put it in her account and then say, hey, if he wants to, he can use your phone.
Mm-hmm.
But they included David, which says a lot.
What day were they married here? Is that needs to be on here if that's not. Yeah, it has when Kamel became pregnant, but we really need to add the date when. Oh no, it's here, October. Okay, so yeah, when we have the actual date of when they were married. I think it was May. Oh geez, I think it was May 21st. I know it was May of 2008. So yeah, we need to add that date in there. So they're married quickly, right, within 6 weeks of knowing each other, and then yeah, at sometime maybe 1 year later, then the father pays for David's phone bill, or created the account. So is this account under Anjem Alam's name, or is this, is he just paying the bill? Do we know about that, Sophia? Or anybody?
Sorry, I'm looking
okay.
right now.
Okay.
I think that it's under David's name, but he's just paying it. I could be very wrong.
It's okay.
1 second.
I want to say hi to Old Chick, who has joined us in the chat room. Remember, you're only as old as you feel. So however you feel, that's how old you are. And also, Mr. William Rail has joined us here, Strange Investigations. You can find him on
Hello.
Twitch. He's always doing something cool, something live. He does a lot of live streams. He may be live right now. You just never, ever
No.
know.
Just go
this
home.
this may be the one time he's not live right here. So what's going on, Will? How are you, man?
Doing all right, doing all right. Just got back from getting coffee, so.
All right, cool. So you're just kind of waking up, feeling out the whole day. Happy Sunday. The sun is out.
you.
The sun is shining. It's a beautiful
Yes,
day, right?
yes. Yes, chemtrails all over the sky. It's
Chemtrails all
fantastic.
over the sky, covering the bright sun and, making lines like prison cells, and we're just moving right along
More like
here.
Scarface, either way.
Okay. Oh, well, there you go. That's a whole other one. Put your straws to the sky, people. All right.
Or I guess, old dollar bills, that works too, I suppose.
Okay, we'll go with
It's,
that.
Greg, did we
Yes.
say hi to Bazing as well?
We did. I hope I did.
Okay, because I'll make sure we
believe I
get
did.
Bazing and Iconic and
Zing and Iconic.
of course
absolutely.
you said hello. Well, Rick and then Old Chick. So hi
right.
everybody.
Yep. Thank you all for
Hello.
joining us here. Really appreciate that. We don't go live that much, so whenever we do, it's always nice to have people. And if anyone in the comments, anyone in the chat room, if you have any comments, any thoughts on this timeline, any questions, anything like that, and just looking at it, it just triggered that comment. Just was who created David's cell phone in 2009? Is Kamel's dad just paying for it, or?
It's under Visa Insurance, and they're the ones who are paying for it, which is Kamal's dad's insurance company.
Okay, so it's under his account, right? This isn't something that David created on his own. Is that right?
No,
Okay.
but the other two phone accounts are under his name.
Okay. So at some point they get off of Kamel's dad's account and create their own in 2014, in October of 2014, basically.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. William, any thoughts on anything that we covered last time in our 2 hours and going over one page of data? And we made it as far as 2010 when David met Danny, right? Just like Harry
Yeah.
met Sally, David met Danny, and here we are, right here at this point. I think this is a very crucial time here when these two forces meet, when these
Well,
two
actually, I
collide.
did find something out interesting a little bit about Danny August Mason recently.
Okay, what do you got?
So Mary Holt and Cindy Hunt were actually able to track down some posts, and we get to see directly when Danny August Mason was just initially going by Danny Mason. It doesn't make too much of a big deal or anything, but I thought it was really interesting. There was a point when he just went by Danny Mason rather than just the whole Danny August Mason.
So
Crip Rick was definitely onto something by saying it's an actor thing. I've looked into it pretty well, and it's definitely an actor thing. As weird as that is.
Yeah, there's a couple actors a couple famous ones that I can think of, and they use their full name, right? It's their stage name. It's probably not their real name, but as far as we know, this is Danny August Mason's real name. So at
Right.
some point, and do you know what's the timeline again? What year?
So off the top of my head, I don't recall the exact date, but it was like MySpace era. Just to
Oh,
put
wow.
that in perspective, yeah.
Okay,
So well before this.
interesting.
Mhm.
All right, well that would be good to kind of to add in here, and again we were
Right.
talking about this, Will, before you came on, about what should be included here, what shouldn't be. There's different schools of thought. Is it better to just put things that are just relevant to the actual murders? Do we throw everything at them and just let them kind of pick and choose whatever they think is actually relevant? What are your thoughts, and what did you think when you helped with this timeline here?
So putting together David and Kamel and Renea's life prior to the crime itself, I feel it could prove some relevance when it comes to, unless we can actually fully come out and say this person's a suspect. Honestly, I don't think we need to be putting anybody else's past in here. I think anything that's going to be relevant from to the crime itself, things that could be they're a little peculiar that occurred. Things from the journal that were specifically mentioned about specific people, I feel it's a good thing to put in here, but I would say it's more or less what's going to be important to the case itself. What is like some kind of like a big event that occurred, I feel is necessary. Things like, obviously like, putting like, when Danny Mason changed it to Danny August Mason, I don't think it's really, necessarily has to be in there. I just found it interesting.
That could show that
he went
maybe
from
he's
a period of this to that.
yeah, maybe he's at that point where he's taking his film career a little more seriously, right? He's trying to build his brand at that point.
Oh, Danny August Mason taking his film career seriously.
You guys
that's
crap
actually
on his
hilarious.
film career, but I'm on the opposite end of that. Obviously, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is the Division commercial or ad, or whatever it was, terrible.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I've seen that one. I'll have to go back and look
No,
at that.
it's you can definitely see he took everything that he had learned from David
But
and the Bullet Exchange. He
Mhm.
took that directly into it, and yeah, you can see it. It's very, very like right up there in your face. Everything he learned from David, about entering a room, clearing a room, things like this, they were all used in that. So I'm not even sure if he was the one who actually choreographed the whole ad or not, but I'm definitely looking into that because I find that very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He goes from a guy who's not necessarily choreographing everything or really much at all to now all of a sudden it seems like he's choreographing this whole thing. And he doesn't even have any experience really. So
So, Lou, I want to say hi to Lou George, who has also joined us, and I will try to say hi, or maybe Catherine or Sophia will help me make sure that we say hi to everyone who does join us in the live chat room as well. And we will continue on. I just think, when I look at the 2012 trailer, the 2012 trailer, it's Danny August Mason. Like, this is his best work, right? Does anyone doubt that? Does anyone think that this is not some of his best work, if not his
No, that's
best
by
work
far
here?
his best
He is
work.
the main
Yeah.
character of this whole thing. Like, his character really draws you in. It drawed me in. A lot of the other stuff I saw in there, I was like, oh, I don't know what the heck is going on. But he fits that character perfectly, I would think. And then he's taken out, and we're going to get there, and we'll get to that point there. But it seemed like he was a very, very big point, a very big part of that. So just
Right.
throwing that out there. All right, so when they met sometime between January 7th and April 13th, 2010. And then we have here on April 13, 2010, David filed a form with the ATF which acknowledged he was building a customized short rifle AR-15 to be used as a movie prop. This got some comments going when this data came out. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. But it was the short rifle used as a movie prop. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Specifically, I don't even know why you would need to file a form with that. He is in the Minnesota state at this point, so I don't know. I don't know if there's anything relevant about it.
It was an AR-15, you said?
Yeah. He was building a customized.
Oh, that's probably why.
Because it was customized. Because he's building it himself, so he
Yeah.
has to file.
Right.
My thoughts on that is that he was doing something, adjusting it, modifying it. So it's like the government has really come down hard on those types of weapons because they're assault weapons.
Right. Weapons of war. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm still failing to find any exact definition on when it comes to the government. They don't have any.
So it's a state thing?
I know.
Or a federal. Well, ATFs, right? So it must be federal.
Yeah, it's federal.
Well, and the thing is, I see connection from this to what's his face, Mr. Let's Play Trump on SNL, Alec Baldwin, that guy. We see some things going on there because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, every single one of those weapons, they were, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were registered. Um, and that's the thing. They're using weapons. They're actually using these firearms on set as a prop, but you start loading them up and all this, they can still fire a lot of the time. So I have heard of certain productions and all this using, um, actual like straight up fake weapons that just look real, but more often than
Yeah,
not, from what I understood, Hollywood and all this, they like to use the real deal, but just make it so there's like no ammunition in it. There's no way anybody's going to get hurt. So,
the whole thing like Prop Gun with the whole Alec Baldwin situation,
yeah.
where they were using an actual gun. They just were putting blanks or whatever in there,
Right.
but they were firing it off the set
Right.
or
Right.
like between things at targets. It's like, how stupid can you get?
Right.
Well, at least David and his crew knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they
That's
didn't
exactly
need to do that on the set because they already knew how to fire those things. Maybe Alec Baldwin didn't, or whoever was doing that didn't know how to do that.
Well,
So
well, see, the thing is, when it comes to that, I mean, that was something that has been discussed pretty widely when it comes to the firearms on set. That's something that all actors they are trained to use, right? Not necessarily to be super proficient, but they'll know at least the basics on, how to operate it, what looks realistic, what doesn't, what's risky, what's not, things like that. Take part in that. I do need to fix that giant space right there. That's terrible.
it's okay.
But the thing is that was something that David and Mitch Heil were very, very adamant about, was gun safety,
Hmm.
and you could see that through his bullet exchange videos. They did go over that pretty extensively. That it was all about gun safety, but at the same time, they do need to achieve a high level of realism.
Mhm.
So,
And the number one thing in gun safety is never point a gun at a person.
bingo.
Well, and
Keep your finger off the trigger when.
yeah, basically. And Alec Baldwin didn't follow that. But when you watch the bullet exchange and the hothead shows and stuff like that, like Will was saying, they're teaching them the basics and gun safety and all that stuff. So
Mhm.
you're actually seeing it. But that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing, is they were teaching how to use the props and the guns and stuff for movies. And they were based in Minnesota for that.
Right.
So they both met in film school, David and Danny, and sometime between April 21st and May 1st, 2010, they began writing the first script here for The Gray State. Now, I think, I mean, just okay, because the trailer came out in 2012, but I think it took them a long time to really create this, to get this going and everything. But this is a very interesting time here because this kind of shows, they're really trying to create a script here. Now, is this the script that we have? Because if this one they began writing in 2010, we have two scripts. One is dated 2013, one is dated 2014. Then we have another one that is also dated 2014 too. So we technically have three scripts. But is this the script that we're talking about? The 2010 one, the one that we have. That's the one that they're really starting to write, right? This may be an early version. We may only have the final version of that script that they started here, but this shows how early back in 2010 that they started writing this.
Well, could that have just been like the trailer type script that they were working on, or was this the legit movie script?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, you can definitely see some of these scenes in the 2013 script, but I think there was probably an earlier script that was just like, okay, let's just get this going, And then they probably did a lot of changes throughout up until there was the 2013 script. That's my assumption. I very well could be wrong. I mean, that's okay too. But you can definitely see quite a few of the scenes from the 2012 trailer. You can see it in the 2013 script. So, but I do want to note one thing, and that is Charles Hubbell's acting in this. I will actually say it's actually, in my opinion, it is far worse than Amos Mason's in this.
You are just not a very friendly guy to these guys. What's up with that?
No,
Come on.
no. So when it comes down to it, Danny August Mason, very, very suspicious individual to me. I don't like the fact that he lied to the police, and that they also partook in directing the police in a specific direction. Whether that just be all purely coincidental, just massive air quotes there, of course, or that is, something that they chose to do, on purpose. I don't really care. It's the fact that it was done. It was directed. They did lie. He even lies about, his amount of work that he's putting into the actual film itself, into the project. He lies about so much, and I have a huge problem with that. There's quite a few of these people that are involved. I'm not saying they're necessarily suspects. I just find them suspicious, and I really don't like it, and it bothers me. And if I would have been an investigator on this case, they would have been people I would have had a ton of interest in, just because there's so much, I'm just going to use the term, fake news they were throwing around, and tons of false information. It bothered me, and you can see it throughout the rest of the time, and you can actually see that they like to go and throw all this stuff out there that's not really true, and some of which, they claimed about David's friendship with them. You could see right through the journal, he was not really friends with them at this point either. Obviously, it's a little later in the timeline, but still, that's why I can't stand Danny August Mason. The guy irritates me to no end. So,
Well, I still have that open challenge to him. So if he ever wants to debate, he's always welcome to. He's the one that challenged me and Dan. I said, cool, let's do it.
Right.
I don't think he's a member of the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group anymore, but I think that's pretty
really?
recently. Yeah, he was for a very long time, but I tried to tag him in a post, and I wasn't able to, so I don't know if he's a member, but he always has that anytime he's willing to, anytime he wants to have the courage to debate me. We'll definitely do that live. I have no issues with that. So he's always open to that challenge that he put out.
right.
But, let's see, May 1st, 2010. This is a very interesting one. I wish I had the notes, because there were some good notes here. David and his brother were very close to Officer Joe Bergeron, which was David's uncle, and that was Kate Crowley's brother. He was shot and killed in the line of duty in Minnesota on May 1st, 2010. So that is an interesting one that kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think, but I'm glad that that's here. I think that is a very important thing here. Now, this ties into the Boston bombing too, because kind of, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, whatever, whatever you want to say. But the guy who witnessed the shooting, one of the witnesses was a jogger. He was out jogging, and he, I guess, saw this person shoot this cop. And that person was a jogger, and he happened to be at the marathon in Boston when the Boston bombing happened. David Crowley, Sean Wright, and a lot of those guys went to cover the Boston bombing after that happened too. So kind of a coincidence or just whatever, and maybe there's no tie in there, but I'm glad that this is in there because it did seem strange that the only witness who really saw this shooting, happened to be somebody who was a jogger, a runner, a marathon runner, who was at the Boston bombing when that happened, and then David and his crew show up later. So David is just not doing the gray state too. I mean, David was doing a lot of other things. I'm sure we all get accused of that. Like this is the only case that we ever cover, right? This is it. That's not true. I don't know anyone who is only covering the David Crowley case. There's a lot of other cases, and it's kind of strange when you find those ties, strange ties into this case and into other cases.
Right.
Let's see here. Okay, so September 17th, 2010, David transferred ownership of his AR-15 to Adam Schambauer in the form of a gift. This is interesting because sometimes it's a gift, sometimes it's a sale. So he sells a gun to a man named David Stark, almost the exact same gun that was found at the crime scene that David had. So I don't know, he must have had two of the same gun. But it's interesting that he gives the AR-15, and he sells one to Danny August Mason, a 9mm, I think. But this one is a gift to Adam Schambauer. So this leads me to wonder about the relationship between Adam Schambauer and David Crowley as a gift, right? That's a pretty big gift, right? An AR-15 rifle. I don't know what the price was in 2010. That's a really nice gift. What do you think about that?
I just wanted to add that Adam Schambauer also called David numerous times early in the morning before their bodies were found.
On January 17th?
17th, uh-huh.
Wow.
Like back-to-back, numerous calls. So.
And
okay, now back to the gun.
Well, now that you brought that up, before that, when was, do you know the last, maybe you can look up the previous time that Adam Schambauer had called them before January 17th?
Yeah, I could look that up.
Okay.
Okay.
Catherine, any thoughts on that?
No, I was just agreeing. I think that was a really good gift. Even if it was a quote-unquote movie prop, it still would be a valuable thing to have, because if the movie had been able to be created and taken off, that could have been quite a piece of, I can't think of the word now, a collector's item, so to speak. So I think that's nice.
If it's for a prop, I mean, okay, so that goes back, now that you brought that up, that goes back to the prop that David had created, this AR-15. Is that what this is?
I'm assuming. I don't know. I didn't read it. William, did it specify if it was the prop AR-15, or did David have more?
Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that's coming up in the chat room too. But yeah, I think that's a great question to ask. Was this the same movie prop given, just like, hey, this is just a prop, or was this an actual AR-15? There is a serial number tied to the AR-15 that Adam Schambauer gets.
Then we could figure it out.
Yeah, so you could probably figure it out and then cross reference that with the ATF form, which I believe that we also have too. That may be in one of the big PDF documents, but yeah, I'm sure we can definitely figure that out if it is the same one. But
yeah, and the thing is that, and I learned this from my son, who, like I've told you before, he hangs with people who do the professional gun shooting shows that you see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Like AR, because of what the news states, I always assumed it meant assault rifle, and it doesn't. It stands for Armalite. It's an Armalite rifle. It's nothing to do with assaulting anybody. So the news demonizes this weapon when in fact it's actually a pretty weak little gun. It looks intimidating, but it's not as intimidating as a lot of other things. So, and it's definitely not an assault weapon. So, yeah, and the fact that David would transfer, I think, any of his weapons to or somebody, I would think he would have to trust them or consider them a close friend, because he was very smart. He didn't just willy-nilly hand his stuff over. I don't think he ever signed over ownership to like Danny August Mason or to Mason Hendricks or even, Sean Wright for that matter. But, there were a couple of other people he did. He trusted them.
That's right. Okay, so we'll look into that. Sophia's looking into the other thing there. And then May 17th, 2011, the Alum family sold their Hewitt, Texas home. So, and they moved, they stayed in Texas. They moved close. They didn't move that far. Mid to late 2011, David, DAM, and Mitch filmed scenes for the Gray State concept trailer. Do we know which scenes those are? I wonder if those are some of those long live, or if those are some of those live streams that they would do. This is some of the early days of doing live stream. Obviously, it's a lot different now, but they would. I've seen a couple of those where David and Danny August Mason and Mitch. I think Mitch was there whenever you see a lot of this stuff that is happening. I think Mitch is there. Obviously, he's behind the camera. He's not in front of the camera, but I think he's there during a lot of this stuff. He doesn't get a lot of credit, really. From what I've seen, right? It's all because it's usually Danny August Mason in front of the camera, David Crowley checking the camera, and I think Mitch is just kind of there doing a lot of the actual lay work, what I would call the real work that is involved in this thing. But this is mid to late 2011. So if they're filming scenes for the concept trailer, that does take me back to what Sophia was saying about when they started writing the Gray State script, right? They were writing the script first, is kind of what it sounds like, and now they're filming scenes for the trailer, unless what they were writing was the actual trailer. But so I'd be curious to kind of know that. And obviously they all know that. They don't want to share the stuff with us. They don't want to really talk to us or anything. We're like the plague for some reason, because we're asking questions about their friend who committed, from what they say, committed this huge crime, but they don't really want to help us understand why he did it, what proves that he did it. They have no proof to show that he did any of this stuff, but somehow we're the bad guys because we're standing up for their friend. So,
and I have the answer for the phone calls, so
okay, go for it.
Adam called 4 times on January 15th,
mm-hmm.
and then several more times on January 17th. They both were early in the morning, super duper early. And then the last time that he called them was in August.
Okay.
Like August 19th. There's something like that. So. Anyway,
okay.
That's what showed up on the phone records.
It's good to know. So then in August of 2011, David transfers ownership of his gun as a gift to Danny August Mason. Okay, so that's another gift. I know there was one sale, so 2 gifts here. One to Adam Schambauer and the second gift to Danny August Mason. This one, as far as we know, is not anything. This is not a prop or anything like that. But so he gives him this gun as a gift. So they're close at this point, right? Danny August Mason, David, and Mitch. I mean, there's photos out there of these 3 guys sitting on benches, and they're really, really close at this point, right? They're building something here, and this is before the 2012 trailer comes out. So all of this is happening before once the 2012 trailer comes out, it's like things get real, right? Things change then, but at this point, it seems like their relationship is really, really good. And I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Any thoughts on that before we get to the trailer, I guess?
Well, I just think it's good. I did not know that he had given Danny August Mason a gun. So this to me is interesting.
Yeah, and we do have a section. I think on my website there is a download just called Guns, and it just kind of it just shows all of the different things that are tied with any guns that were given or anything related to the guns. And I think this is one of 3 guns that is in there. 2 were given as gifts, and then another one was sold. So that's pretty interesting. But I mean, I'm not just gonna give a gift. I'm not going to give a gun to somebody if I don't trust them, if I don't know them, if I haven't spent a lot of time with them. And at this point, they've been in film school for maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, 2 seasons, whatever you want to call them. But and they don't really know each other that long, but it sounds like they're building this friendship here, this friendship that you would think would last a very long lifetime, if you're willing to give somebody a gun as a gift.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. Absolutely huge. So you're right. At that point in time, David had to have considered him a friend because, a lot of people, they're very careful who they would transfer their weapons to because they have to believe that person would not then criminally use the weapon because they don't want to be responsible for that. So it's interesting to see the evolution of their relationship to go from this to the end where he pretty much was like, we all know how he felt about Danny August Mason at the end, but wow.
Yeah. So something obviously happened. I mean, to drive that wedge between David and them. And we only get a glimpse of it in the journals. Which, if we didn't even have the journals, we wouldn't know.
Well, on top
there
of
was that wedge.
So we can actually, we should be able to track when there was a decline in conversation points to the phone. But we'd have to go through the old timeline. Just like the first time we see Mason Hendricks pop up ever when it comes to the phone records is like in March. So, or 2014. But
oh, can I add something really fast?
Sure.
With the Adam Schamberg phone calls, David didn't answer them.
Right.
Oh. Okay.
He did prior. If you look on the old number 5 timeline, he did answer. He would call him and things like this. So I'm curious as well as when exactly their relationship fell apart. When he started not wanting to really be, have them in his life. We get to see these little glimpses through the journal, but that's, we go all the way back to April for that. But before that, we don't have anything. So I think we're going to have to be reliant on the phone records to see basically when it's occurred, and then we should be able to cross-reference why did these relationships start to fall apart.
Well, and from, my own personal experience and with other writers, I belong to a group of people who would get together because they're all, we're writers trying to get books published, and this was in a different state. And I'm telling you, there's nothing that will destroy your relationship with another person faster than someone who tries to claim credit for something you've done. Within our group, it's very common, and this is why writers go to these groups. You will present your writings, and people, and you say, okay, everybody read this, tell me what you think, give me your critique. So people will then critique and say, hey, maybe you should add this here, or maybe you should take that out there. And at that point, you then could or could not add or remove a suggestion. Which is what I see has happened here between David and Danny a lot. Maybe Danny suggested some stuff, and maybe David added, but we know at the end David completely took out a whole ton of stuff, which seemed to be, if you're backtracking, a lot of stuff that maybe Danny had suggested, and Danny's still trying to claim ownership. No, this is mine. I was writing it with you. And David's like, no, this is my work. This is my blood, sweat, and tears. So that would cause a huge rift. because you have someone now trying to lay claim to your hard work, your blood, sweat, and tears. You're the one who's staying up, writing on days on end and missing meals and missing family time. Well, this other person just said, hey, maybe that person could go shoot a gun or say these words, and now all of a sudden they think they're part of the script.
Right.
And so, yeah, and thank goodness that doesn't happen a lot. In our group, thank goodness nobody tried to lay claim to another person's writing. But oftentimes, we would take each other's suggestions and we would rewrite a certain chapter or a certain few pages based on what this other person said. But that, again, it doesn't mean that they are now co-writer. And that's the same thing that I see happening with between David and Danny. And I just see why, for me, it's like, and it may be wrong, I could be seeing something that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but the fact that the rift could very well be between Danny and David is Danny was trying to, like I said, claim something that was not his.
Well, one thing I'd like to add is, I agree 110% here. I think that's what exactly happened. We got to see, there's footage of Danny, August Mason, Mitch Heil, Kamel, and David Crowley all at the same table, and they're going over the script.
Mm-hmm.
We know the two biggest people that were working on the script, it wasn't Mitch Heil and Kamel. Kamel and Mitch Heil were almost like proofreaders, and they were kind of like the ones that were just kind of, okay, well, maybe we can add some suggestions. Danny August Mason was very, very much involved, but we know that David did kick him off. We know that because you can see the difference between the 2013 and the 2014 script. Completely different in a lot of ways. They went down the same path, of course, when it came down to, there's the I would argue the hero sacrifices there at the very end. Even in the 2013 script, even though it's not as, up in your face. But when it comes down to this whole thing falling apart, I fully agree with you that it's probably something along those lines, because we know that back in July, before Rania's party, David was already talking to a lawyer, trying, go and getting this contract written up so that way they can go and send it off to Danny August Mason. So they basically say, you're off the team, essentially. I think that's what was going on. And I think that maybe he got wind of it, maybe early on, maybe there was some talk. Because like I said, you see this decline in their conversations, because
you're right, and it wouldn't be much of a stretch for Danny to start to maybe figure things out. And again, I see this as Danny misunderstanding his adding things to this. When you sit around a table and you're all brainstorming, that doesn't make you a writer. That
Right.
doesn't make you a creator. The person who takes these ideas and then creates the script is what David was doing, and they're tossing ideas back and forth. Again, I think Danny took that as, oh no, see, that's my script.
Right.
And David's like, no, you tossed out an idea. I'm saying in his mind, no, you tossed out an idea, and then I took an idea and I wrote a script.
Right.
And then when Danny started to dig his heels in, thinking he owned what he didn't own, and then David, you just see it. You see where it's now like a Peter pulse, so to speak, if there's another way. I don't know of another way to put it. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's and Danny never got it. It was never his. And so David then was going to go the legal route, which is what he should have done in the first place. But now he's like, okay, this is really going a different direction, so I'm going to get legal representation and get this really in my name. And as we see, all hell broke loose from that point.
Yeah. The thing is, that's enough, in my opinion, that could be easily construed as motive.
Absolutely.
So, it's one of those things. By no means is anybody here saying, oh, these guys did it per se, but it does give speculation for motive here. This is a reason why somebody would kill people. We've seen people do this before.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of cases. Exactly. So, this just throws even more speculation that, okay, well, why aren't the police looking at this guy here? They had this information. The thing this timeline is also proving too, based on what we're all saying here too, is they did not put together a timeline. If they put together a timeline, they'd see these things.
Right.
They clearly didn't. They just looked at, okay, this is what we got. They looked at it all separately. Maybe a couple times they might have, okay, well, this looks like this might fit here. They weren't putting together a puzzle at all. They just looked at, oh, look, these are some puzzle pieces. Okay. They relatively look like they fit. Okay. We're just going to go and run with it. This is what we're thinking it's going to be based on a couple here. But even then, they were like, pushed in together, forcefully. It wasn't like this does actually work.
Right.
So,
I like that puzzle analogy. That really fits this because it's like they say, oh, okay, look, these are all shades of blue, so it must be the same puzzle without trying to put the pieces together to see if they actually fit. That's a great analogy.
oh, thank you. Thank you. I do try.
One thing that the timeline shows and that the journal shows is that David and Kamel did not suddenly pull away from people.
Right.
That this happened over a period of time and that it wasn't part of their spiral into madness kind of thing at the very end. So that kind of debunks the narrative too,
Mm-hmm.
which, to me that's helpful because this shows me, okay, look, he got the attorney, and this was back in the summer that he got the attorney.
Right.
And he's already talking about these people and how they're being leeches and stuff like that back in the summer. And so this wasn't like right after the party. And I mean, no wonder the party seemed awkward for several people.
Yeah.
Right.
Although David and Kamel didn't lead on to that with the journal and their stuff. But
Yeah, because
I'm
even
sure
if
it was awkward.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a question. Do people have to pay a tax when they sell a gun?
That's a good question. I don't
Like-
know. I don't own any, so.
Because because what David writes on that contract was, this is a gift. It was not sold.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, because I know that some people, when they like sell a car to a friend or a relative, they'll do it for like $1. So
Right.
that the sales tax or whatever, when they register it, isn't super expensive. And I'm just wondering.
Well, I think maybe it's just because it's easier. It's an easier way to get, because I think there's certain paperwork you have to fill out, and it becomes a pain in the butt if you're actually going to sell something, because then you have to run them through background checks. I'm just assuming, because I'm thinking of what you have to do if you go to purchase a gun at a gun shop. I don't think it would be any different if you're trying to sell to somebody, because otherwise, if you don't vet them legally, you could then be responsible if you sell it. But if you're gifting
Mhm.
it, that's a different story.
It does appear that, they can be taxed.
Okay.
And rather, I mean, like, I'm not sure if it's state or I'm still looking into that, if it's state or if it's federal, but it does look like firearm sales, there's a tax. So,
And that's
but then
Thank
again,
you.
we all know what they've all preached too is taxation is theft. So, there's that.
that's what makes it weird about the whole David Stark thing, because I don't know who David Stark is. I have no idea who
Who's
this
David
guy
Stark?
named that's the who is David Stark? Is he Tony Stark's son or something? I have no idea.
Totally.
But David Stark
Cousin.
is the one that David sells a handgun to, which is interesting because the handgun was actually purchased by David's wife. So David's wife buys it back in July of 25th, 2009, and David is the one who sells it in July of 2012 to David Stark. Now this is a Springfield XD40 Cal, and like I said, we do have a whole document. It's like 12 pages on my website. And it does kind of go over through any of the sales, anything like that, any of the actual transfers, including the serial numbers. So from what this says is on June 17, 2012, David sold this handgun to David Stark, and this is a Springfield XD40 Cal. It just happens to be the exact same handgun found at this crime scene. But I have no idea who this David M. Stark is at all, and it's not really clear. There's nothing else included in the files that we have. That's just pretty much it. But it is a sale. So whereas the other two are gifts, this is the sale. So of this gun. So I don't know. That's all that I know about who this David Stark is. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and look into it today.
Yeah,
and,
the
try
gun.
and
I
get
mean,
back to you guys.
when the gun was purchased and all that, we have that document. This was purchased in Texas. Kamel purchased it. She paid $500 basically for it, and that was it. So she buys it, and maybe it's they figured David, she doesn't need this gun at that point as far as 2012, and they sell it, and that's it. But it's interesting that whereas the other two are gifts, this one is a sale. So that always kind of stuck out to me. I did put that in my book for that reason. I think it was a little interesting. I have no idea, again, who this David Stark is. He's never mentioned in any other thing.
It's just
Go ahead.
strange that she is the one who sold it, because she's still using David's gun in the future, like when they go for shooting and target practice and stuff like that. You could see photos of her still shooting a gun. So it's not like she gave it up. It's just they decided to get rid of her gun.
To get rid of her.
And can I throw in a side note that has
Sure.
nothing to do with the timeline about the guns?
Sure.
When I was doing research on the Springfield XD, it was interesting to note that with this particular gun, now I don't know if it goes across the board because I was only researching the Springfield, is that when guns are produced, especially consecutively, are very close together. So if there's serial number, I don't know how they do serial numbers, but if they're produced very close together, that the striations, the lands and grooves, when they're fired, will be almost identical. So it would be really hard to tell one gun apart from the other if you're checking ballistics, which I found that very interesting.
That really is. That makes me want to
Wow.
look up David's the serial number found at the crime scene and compare this to serial number US 163310.
Yeah, and Sophie and I are getting ready to do a video on the ballistics only, but not the gun itself. But it is interesting to note, because there's just so much to cover on this topic, we can't get to it all. But in the reports, it states that they had poor reproducibility with their test-fired ammunition, and what that means is that they couldn't get the same striations to show consistently on each bullet fired. So how they're coming up and saying things match is beyond me. But so that's what led me to start doing research on the Springfield itself. I'm like, well, why would that be? Why would it produce such poor results? And that's why it's just generally not consistent oftentimes with this particular gun. So again, I want to know how could they then, with their own results being quote unquote poor reproducibility, then state that this definitely was the gun.
Interesting. And of
That's
course,
definitely something to think about.
absolutely. I don't have the serial number of the gun found at the murder scene. It's not hard to find. It should be in there.
I'll
So,
get it for you.
okay, because I'd like to compare that to this number we have here. Then 163310.
I'm not sure how they list their serial numbers and how they number them. So maybe getting information from them, because are they consecutive numbers? I don't know, or do they just randomly name something as it comes offline? No
Sure.
clue. But that was just so interesting to me. The more I did dig into this whole ballistics, the gun and the bullets, I walked away going, how can they? I'm shaking my head just by their own results.
Right, and that's in that 40-page BCA report.
It's page, I believe, 165 of the 466-page report. Sophie and I will
Okay.
be showing it briefly,
Oh, cool.
that particular part, when we do our video. So look for that coming this week, guys.
Nice, awesome, great timing for
Springfield
that.
XD serial number XD546473. Doesn't match Camille.
No, not even close, really. No. We don't know when that one was bought. Was it? What do we have that?
No, I
Surprised
don't
we
have
don't
a
have that one. What the
date
heck?
for that.
Why do they have all this other stuff here, but nothing about the murder weapon? I would want more about the actual murder weapon than anything here. I mean, this is all great stuff.
Yeah.
These 12 pages are great stuff to have, but what do we know about the murder weapon? That's what we would want to know, right?
Yep.
That wouldn't be in the ATF paperwork.
I didn't see it
Probably
there.
not.
No, the only ATF one is just the one where they talk about the short barrel rifle. That's really it. It's just, I mean, obviously
So
there
why
could be
not
other things.
about the murder weapon.
I mean, there could be other things that we don't have. Obviously, right? We weren't supposed to get any of this stuff, really. So
Oh, we already know we're missing a ton of it.
yeah. But
Well, I mean, we have the list of guns, we have the permits to carry, but why don't we have that gun, that
Yeah.
information?
yeah, we don't have a lot about the gun. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, they also
That's
didn't want
just-
to. They didn't want to show proof of the murder weapon either. So there's that.
Strange stuff here. Let's see. June 2013, writing professional Linda Seeger, Colorado, reviewed the script for The Gray State. And I do remember seeing something about this. I went back in my notes. I could not find it, but I do remember seeing something about this. We don't really know that much about this right now, right? What her note? I remember her notes were very critical, and I don't know if it came up in an article that somebody else posted or something like that, but she had a lot of notes about the way that the script was actually written. And I was wondering who this person is, first of all. Based on this really could be one of the reasons why David completely changed his script and why the 2014 script looks so much different than the 2013 script. But I think by this point...
Didn't he,
Go ahead.
well, I was just wondering, didn't he post that on Facebook or Twitter that he had sent the script off to be read by her or something? I vaguely remember.
Yeah, me too.
But
I
I
don't,
could be remembering the article. Who knows?
yeah, I don't know. I just remember reading that somewhere, but I can't remember either.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm
No, it's
sorry.
okay. No, that would be good it'd be good to know more about that for sure. Of course, this is all before they move into their home at 1051 Ramsdale Drive in Apple Valley on December 2013. I mean, this is really their last stop here. This is this is where things get really stranger, I guess, than anything else. But so really not much there known between December 13th and March 16th, 2014, from what we have here. Or maybe not that much that's really relevant to what is happening. But March 16th, 2014, Allison Crowley, David's sister, gets engaged to Susan Gold. We've done some research on Susan Gold, and she's an interesting character, too, in all of this. April 13th, 2014, according to the New Yorker article, which if any of you have read that, that's a really strange piece there. David began the journal on April 16, 2014. However, the first journal entry was written April 13, 2014. So this could be just one of the many things that Alec Wilkinson got wrong. And I think it's Alec, A-L-E-C.
Yeah, I just copy and pasted.
That's cool. That's cool.
You know,
It's
so
not- not a big
in my
deal.
defense,
How dare you, Will?
when
You
it
got
came
it
to
wrong.
This, what's really interesting
Yeah.
is the fact that he's saying April 16th. There is no journal entry for April 16th. There's a 15th, and there's a 17th.
So he's just being fed this stuff. He's not seeing this stuff. Somebody
Right.
is feeding him this data,
Well, we already
telling
know
him.
the New Yorker has been caught up in, this whole Operation Mockingbird several times over. We already know this.
Mhm.
So I think this is just another one of those things. They got to go and feed an agenda, right? They got to feed the narrative they need this to be. And that's what's going on here. I feel like that's honestly what the media was doing throughout this entire thing, is we're seeing Operation Mockingbird in full effect
Right.
because they're trying to go
Mhm.
push all this gun control, right?
Yeah.
Because if you remember during this time, like get back in, like after David's, him and his family's untimely deaths, they, we got to see there was a ton of gun control being spouted. I'm actually trying to go and find back in 2015 if there was any. We already know the Republican candidates and a lot of Libertarian candidates aren't going to be pushing gun control. Why? Because, well, it's foolish. That's kind of how our country, that's what we founded against, right? But with the Democrats, we generally see this, and this isn't meant to be like some kind of a broad sweeping statement, but this is something that Democratic candidates often push, is gun control. And so I'm curious as to see how much did Hillary Clinton and how much did these other Democratic candidates push, right? And the reason I also say this is that I've been talking about how this is going to get political in this case is because you got to see where some of these people that were, that a lot of us are probably very, very suspicious of, how they lean, in contrast to what they claim about Rand Paul, right?
Right.
These people are not, a lot of them are not libertarians. A lot of them are, in my opinion, they're bad actors, especially Danny August Mason. Ooh! But, it's,
I'm with you.
yeah, I think most of us are there, just can't act to save his life. Ooh. But, maybe he could, but I don't know. But, but he, a lot of these guys, they promoted on their own Facebook pages, and this might actually matter, this might not, but it's very, very strange coincidences. These people were all pretty much like, when you see them on film, they do talk politics. Well, maybe not on film, but like on YouTube and things like this through Bullet Exchange. If anything is brought up through politics, or how they feel about certain things politically, right, that are big political topics like guns and things like this, are very, very staunch against gun control. But then you'll see on their Facebook pages, like, somebody supported, they were showing kind of some support for Hillary Clinton. They're showing some support for Bernie Sanders. These are very, very staunch advocates for gun control, rather than, let's have our gun rights. Let's actually have our freedom to bear arms. So I find that rather interesting as well, because David was trying to go and surround himself with people that were, it feels like he was at least trying to surround himself with people that were like-minded, people that they understood their rights, they understood what Rand Paul was talking about, but it was like very, very much centric around almost like, this whole taxation is theft and all that, the liberty movement, if you will. So I find that very odd that he had quite a few people in there that would say something on one side, but really they felt a different way about it. Or they're tied to organizations that really, or groups that were, very, very pro-government, if you get what I'm saying here. So
We have then.
And-
Go ahead, Sophia.
And it's pretty common knowledge that when David was alive in 2014, even going into 2015, Obama was really pushing red flag laws and gun control to the point where if Hillary would have won in 2016, she would have continued that.
right.
And it would have been very, very hard for anybody to own a gun.
Oh, look at the resident. The person who's not really an absent-minded resident of a White House.
Yeah.
He he's even pushing for some things. Him and his
Exactly.
cronies. they're pushing real
I mean-
hard. They don't like the liberty movement. They don't like patriots. They don't like patriotism. Either basically just if you're against the government in any way, you might want to shut up and sit down. If not, they're going to come after you, kind of. So.
Well, just like what he said last week, late in last week, was the Second Amendment is not written in stone. It's not absolute.
Right.
And that it can be taken away. It was like, well, if the Second Amendment can be taken away, what about the 13th Amendment? What about women's rights? What about the other amendments?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a slippery slope.
Oh, that's not just slippery. That's like straight up slip and slide, right there.
Yeah.
That's like
You were
opening up
full
that
bore down
door.
it. So okay, face first, enjoy. There's a brick wall at the end, buddy.
Yeah, there's this door that you don't open, and it's like they want to keep opening that, and just it's all about the questions and everything. It's just keep well, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's good. They just want to water down everything to the point where nothing really matters. Nothing means anything except for what they want, except for what they bully us into thinking and what they want us to take seriously. And it seems like David Crowley saw a lot of that firsthand going over to these other countries, fighting in these wars where it's like, are these justified wars? Are these not justified wars? And, et cetera, et cetera. And, I mean, he came back so calm. And we see a lot of other people who have come back from war and, they've done a lot of sensational things. Like, what's that guy's name? Adam Kokesh? Right?
Oh yeah, that.
And he's like this big sensational thing. It's like this whole entertainment thing, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And whereas David comes back and is like he digs his heels in. He wants to become a filmmaker. Film is a very powerful medium. He's doing music. Music is a very powerful medium. He's doing writing. He's tackling the three most powerful things. If you really want to help people, if you really want to reach the real people, those are the big three things right there. And he was engaged in all three of those things. He was a big threat. He was a big threat to anything that is pushing forward, especially as we know what's coming up in 2016 with all of that stuff. And to have him there in 2016, can't have that. You can't have guys like that there. You want these sensational guys that you can discredit, but you don't want the real guys who are really digging in their heels and really trying to create something to get your mind thinking, not to brainwash you. It's a big, big difference from when I see Adam Kokesh and David Crowley. If you compare those two people, and
you can even look at Luke
minds.
Rudkowski too. Same thing.
Who's that? Who?
Luke Rudkowski.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, him. Yeah. There's as much as I do like to watch Mark Dice's content, I mean,
it's
where's his
sensationalism, right? It's not.
Right.
Yeah, it's all like just. I mean, he gets out there like Dice. I met Dice at the Bohemian Grove protests in 2012. He's just out there. He's on his bullhorn. He's got his talking points. He says the talking points, and then he goes home. Right. And then he wants you to fund him to come back out there the following year. Like you fund yourself. David wasn't asking people for any funding. He put all that stuff out there, but look at what he did with $6,000 with what they did, to get everything started. And David was able to do things that a guy like Mark Dice, a guy like Luke could never do. Luke has never made anything on his own. It's always been other people's money. He's taken We Are Change's money and used it for his own school. Used it for his own stuff. He's reporting on things that other people are doing. He's not creating any new content. David is here creating new content here. I would even argue, I know you guys may not like it, I would even argue Danny August Mason is a part of that, creating this new content here.
No, yes, he's definitely part of it, but you can definitely see a shift in some things with him.
True.
Having a thought doesn't make you a creator, and I will argue that till the end of time, because you can have a good thought, definitely doesn't make you a creator.
No, I know, but it's on paper. Danny August Mason was given a writing credit. He's given a writing
But
credit
again, we
in
don't
the
know.
script.
We don't know. Understand all of that from the beginning. You know, he just because you give somebody writing credit.
Right.
I think that was David being generous. And then when
Okay.
David said enough was enough, and I'm going to really go forward with this, you know, he had to take it back. It was he completely did everything.
Yeah, I just don't see why David would completely take his character out, change the whole script, if he was happy with everything that they had written back then. I think the fact that he took everything out that Danny August Mason was contributing in shows how much Danny August Mason actually contributed to the script that was probably started in 2010 that ended in 2013. I could be wrong.
Well,
I'm
that,
just
that I
speculating.
think is an assumption. You
Sure,
don't know that
absolutely.
Danny August Mason contributed much of anything to that character. All you know is that that was the character that he was assigned, and David said, you know what, no, I'm going to get rid of it.
True.
Well, see, I'm kind of in the middle on this. Is I think that if by reading the script, I think we all kind of got this vibe that it almost looked like two people were writing.
Yeah,
the initial
well, at
script.
one point, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was very all over the place. It was horrible. It was an awful script.
It was. It
I like
was.
the first half
I mean,
of
it
the
was the story
2013
itself
script.
where it was going. You could see kind of bigger picture. It was going to get really dark. It was dark, like not even halfway through. It was pretty gruesome, in my opinion. But you don't see that level of gruesomeness really in his 2014 script. So you get to see all this pulled out. This just stuff is just ripped out. You know, he even backs away, and we took note a while ago that he removed the InfoWars connection with the sticker on there. You know, he's basically removed all these things. He's like, nah, can't trust this. You know, we can't do this. We can't use this. This is going to be bad for this. It's going to be bad for that. You know, he's just removing things left and right. And so you definitely get a different feel. When you see David write, I mean, by no means am I saying it is like, you know, Oscar level, you know, not to mention that that's...
No, he had
Yeah.
very immature writing, yes.
Right, yeah, he's not like, you know, this like very, very powerful writer. He's got some powerful things he throws in there, but they're not all carried out.
His
at this,
gift showed in the film, not in the
Right.
writing. Yeah.
Right. And so that's the big thing we're seeing here is his writing is just kind of but you do see that when Danny August Mason's stuff was in the initial script, it's just kind of like really far out there, very extreme a lot of times. And with
And
David's
like you
stuff, it's
said,
never really to the extreme.
Right, and like you said, it was all over the place. There were, you know, when it went back and forth, there were areas where it's like, okay, this is pretty good writing, to holy cow, did a second grader write this? This is horrible.
Right.
And then toward the very last script that I read, and I'm not sure if it was even the last one, it flowed better. You're like going, okay, I hear one voice here now, and it made sense. And it seemed to me that David was taking the criticism that he was getting, the critiques, I should say, not criticism, the critiques he had sent out for, probably from this Linda person, I don't know who she is, but, you know, from her and from other professionals that said, you know, hey, maybe you should do this because this really sucks. And he took that and he just completely rewrote it. And when it was rewritten, it then became his work, not anybody else's.
100%. 100%. By the way, just to throw this out there, I did find out who Linda Sager is. Actually, a doctor. Dr. Linda Sager. She's an author, done all sorts of screenwriting stuff. Very, very, looks rather decorated, too. So I'll throw that up in the
So
chat.
she's a real professional then, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you can you see your screen, Bazing, on the live stream on YouTube? I mean, I'm sorry, not Bazing. William, I'm sorry. Can you see your the live stream on YouTube?
I mean, if I were to go and put that up right now, I'd have to like mute it and stuff.
I mean,
but-
the only reason I ask is because Bazing, I'm not sure I understand the question, but maybe you will. They just state off subject, but the article "Death of a Dystopian," the timeline should be the date the article was written, shouldn't it? Not April 13th.
Oh no.
So the reason, just to cover that real quick, the reason I put this here, it was a copy and paste directly from the other timeline that Dan Hennon had put together. But I feel this is relevant here because this is basically showing the actual article. The New Yorker article is 110% incorrect, but this is where the first journal entry actually does appear.
Right.
Even though this article is claiming this is when this is done.
And
That's
when was the article itself written?
that was written in
I think it was like
2017. 2017, because that was written. See, that was supposed to come out around the same time that Eric Nelson's film came out. So they were all tied into 2017 when all that was supposed to come out, and they were gonna, you're gonna have Eric Nelson's film, The New Yorker, Death of a Dystopian. So that article didn't come out until 2017.
Oh, okay. So the point is even referencing the article itself, Death the Dystopian, is not to bring when this was written at this point, but was the fact of what it was saying inside the article.
Correct.
That the first journal date was the 16th, but in actuality it was actually the 13th.
Correct.
Is that the point
That's
of
right.
this little tidbit being put here? It was just to bring attention to when the first journal entry was actually made.
Correct.
correct,
Yeah,
and
this was
just to basically address the misinformation.
Yeah,
Okay,
one
thank-
more point that they got wrong. Basically,
Okay,
I mean,
thank you. That helps.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, what points have they actually got right? That's my question here.
David Crowley, they got his name right.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Oh, and that he was found dead.
Was
There's
found
that.
dead.
But
Yeah,
other than that, I mean,
yeah.
did they
I had
really get
actually
anything
spoke
right
with
about
him.
this?
I had spoke with Alec, and he was another one who was not really interested in the bullet in the ceiling. He was not really interested in the questions, not really interested in the documents or anything like that. It's like
Some investigative journalist.
I know, right? It's like, well, so what are you guys doing? You're saying this is a death of a dystopian? I made a whole video saying I have no idea what a dystopian is. I had to go and look up that word. That's beyond my peeny brain knowledge here. But it's like, what are you really trying to say? And they kept bringing up this alt-right, and it's like all this stuff that had really nothing to do with David Crowley. A lot of the terms that they were using was nothing associated with David Crowley, but you could tell, like, this guy he's like a staff writer. It's like a CIA writer. They're just writing this because somebody told them this is what we want, and write this, and this will sell, and we can sell this here. It's just for money. These people, the only reason Alec Wilkinson is writing this is for money. He's not writing this because he cares about this family, because he wants to get to the truth of what happened here. He's writing this because it is his job. As long as people get that, then cool, okay? Take it for what it's worth, and if you
True.
like it, if you don't like it. But this guy is not a journalist. He's
No.
not writing
Oh,
this in a
true.
journalist, fashion.
Well, the thing
He's
is
writing
with this
for
is,
money.
like I said before, this is just Operation Mockingbird in full swing here. They have an agenda they've got to go and push. Here's the agenda. They want to push. This guy was this crazy right wing. Alt right. Gun nut. That's basically what he was hearing. Really, was he really? No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Libertarians. I mean, you can argue all you want. Maybe they're right leaning, maybe they're left leaning, but still, libertarians are roughly like in the center, but below direct center. That's where libertarians fall when it comes to this political compass here. And a libertarian, I mean, there's just some things that he stood for, but it wasn't like authoritarian by any means. He was standing with he stood with Ron Paul's ideals. That was obviously going to be the person he wanted to vote for. So
That's right. Well, yeah, they did the whole 2012 Ron Paul thing there, right? That was a big push. It looked very similar to a lot of the things that the whole We Are Change, what they were doing, where they were pretty much trying to build themselves up using Ron Paul as a speaker, using September 11th as something that would lift them up, not to get to the truth of what happened on September 11th.
right.
Not to get to the whole thing about the whole, about whatever Ron Paul was saying. You have a lot of other speakers there that were just, and even David Crowley. If you look at David Crowley in the 2012 speech, he looks very uncomfortable. That's my view, in anyways. He does not look like he really wants to even be there. He does not want to be on stage. He seems like more a person who is comfortable behind the camera, not someone who wants to get himself on to the camera. And it seems like a lot of people were there at that 2012 thing that happened there. They wanted to get their message out, to plug their stuff, to plug whatever they were doing, not really to really say, hey man, the country is in trouble here. We have a big problem when you have a guy like Ron Paul who really has a strong message, has a great following, and it's just seemed like a lot of people just wanted to kind of leech on to whatever Ron Paul was saying, the same way they wanted to leech on to what David Crowley was doing. It was like wherever the flow was going, wherever the tidal wave was going, they wanted to be a part of that tidal wave. They wanted to ride that tidal wave like a like a surfer. They were not. They just wanted to be part of it. They didn't, and to see how they could benefit from it, not to see how they could help that surfer, how they could help whatever Ron Paul was doing, how they could help whatever David Crowley was doing. It was to see how they could benefit from whatever those two guys were doing. That's the way that I kind of took a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure you probably feel the same.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is like, David, I think, knew how controversial this topic was.
Yeah.
And he didn't want the limelight on him because, well, he's got a family. You know, he doesn't want to have the limelight, but nobody else is preaching his message. It's no different than how I feel about why I'm putting my content out there. It's the same reason I don't really show my face off. You know, yeah, somebody could look into me and find out what I look like, sure. But I'm not like actively, hey, this is the layout of my home. You know, this is, I'm not going to put up a green screen. Same reason why I don't show my face on TikTok. It's the same reason.
You don't show your face here either.
I don't
brother.
want my face out there. My voice is fine. People can, you could deduce a number of things based on, the sound quality and all this. Yes, my mic is a little old. I do apologize for that. But hey, you can do all sorts of different things by breaking things down.
Sure.
But end of the day, I don't feel comfortable showing my face off. I don't want to show my face off. It comes down to that personal preference. But at the same time, could somebody just look me up? Yeah. Somebody could have easily done the same thing if David didn't show up to the thing. But he wanted to go and get the message out, and he took the risk, is what he was doing. And, could he have just used Danny August Mason? Yeah, but then Danny August Mason could have just taken credit. And I think that's what he was leery of. He's like, well, this is my baby here. This is my project. I need to get this out here. But if I go and let these guys do it, they're just going to take credit for it. This is theirs. So it's kind of similar to, as I have, this goes back to my former business partner when we were doing the comics and games and all this. I had a product that I'm still working on, and that's why I majored. It almost seemed like he was trying to take this creation I had. It goes back to what Catherine was saying. We would bounce these ideas off of different groups and all this. How does this work and all this? But he literally, right after we separated the business, he tried to take my products with him. The ones that I'd created prior to our combination, right? Mm-hmm. And he tried to take all that. He'll probably have a different story for it, but regardless, that's what happened. And so I had to kind of fight him for it, and I had to go and call him out numerous times. Hey, you can't use this. This is mine. And so it was done in the past. That's where it stops. No more. And I had to go and use some legalese on him. Well, I think that's what David was trying to avoid entirely. He didn't want to have to do this. He's like, look, you guys are giving ideas here. You guys are going to write some stuff down, but guess what? I'm going to probably edit the crap out of it. And I think he saw with his first initial trailer, he needed to get something out. He wanted to get a story. But I think end of the day, he was going to edit that out anyways. He was going to go and change it. That's why I think he gave Danny August Mason some writing credit. It was only for that. He did probably took part in the initial script, like we talked about earlier. There was like 2 different voices in that script. And it comes down to, if you looked at that script and that trailer, they all showed off the John Waynick character a lot. And that's I think David saw that, oh crap, we need to go and edit this out because, well, he's a side character. He's not the main character. He's not the protagonist. He's a side character. And yet we're showing more of him, and we're showing him to be the most, like, the badass character. That's when he's not meant to be that per se either, you know. I think he's just trying to, I think that after the trailer released and everything, I think that's why a lot of things were shifting. And he was like, okay. Plus, on top of that, the meeting with the mics probably added to it. Hell,
Yeah.
I'm sure even Linda Seeger probably added to that as well.
Yeah, thanks
Right.
thanks for that. I'm going to check that out, lindaseeger.com. Go ahead, Catherine. You had something to say.
No, go ahead.
Um, let's see here. So, yeah, so
I agree,
April.
that's correct too.
What does Rick say? Oh, will I truly
Oh,
believe
he
a
said
lot
he
of-
truly believes a lot of different people and groups were trying to hijack David's film to use the spear for their movements. His
Yeah.
opinion. I agree.
Well, they still are.
Hmm.
And that's a lot of what's in
They still
David's
are
journal,
trying
right?
to hijack it.
Right.
Actually, I'm gonna have to head on out, guys. So sorry.
Okay. Any
Well,
final
thanks for
words,
joining,
Sophia?
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much, and well, thank you for your hard work on this.
No, of course. No problem. Thank you for your guys' contributions as well. Couldn't have done it without all you guys, so.
Okay, well, you guys have a great weekend, and Catherine, I'll talk with you a little bit later tonight.
Okay, have a good one.
Okay. Good night.
Later.
Bye.
Yeah, so by April 13th, 2014, this is really when we know about David's journal, right? So David's first journal, so that was the main thing of getting that in there about when he got that wrong. Another thing, Alec Wilkinson got it wrong. So was the first journal entry on April 13th or April 14th? I think we need to make a edit here too at some
April 13th is when. Oh yeah, no, that's fair. I do need to add that out there.
I mean,
but no, when
they're-
it comes down to April 14th, there was one too.
There was a journal entry. Gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. So the first one was April 13th, but he also made he also did something on April 14th. Gotcha. Okay, and then 3. Yeah, this is good to kind of show how many he made, all of his entries that he made, because there are a lot, and show how
And
active
just
he was.
just to note one thing
Yes.
about that too, like I was saying earlier, I'm not going to go and put in every single journal entry either. You know, like what every single thing these said or what pictures they had in there. That doesn't necessarily matter. That the thing is, I was pointing out anything that was relevant. If I talked about what was in a day one journal entry,
Mhm.
that's the only time you'll see really this is relevant here. This is actually relevant. The rest completely irrelevant. It could have been as simple as, you know, like let's take the April 14th here. He had one journal entry there, and all he says there is, I'm going through depression as part of my personality switch, like a hard restart. Nothing is anything anymore. Now, could that partake with the quote-unquote narrative, right? That could, okay, to some degree, with the narrative. But we know that's not it. He's talking about personality switch. He's trying to go and better his life. That's all he's talking about. He's talking about his personality switch. Because he met with the mics early on, and all of a sudden we get this journal going, right? We were getting that to, well, I think he started this just before he met with the mics, but I got to go and double check on that. But regardless here, you know he's trying to go through this shift. He wants to get rid of all that's really unnecessary in his life. That includes people, that includes habits. You know, he even talks about kicking weed as well. He started late in his life, apparently, according to his journal entries. You know, and then he wants to kick it. He's like, nah, you know, I don't really need it. You know, this is not something I want to be rewarding myself. This is not something I want to give myself at all. He's like, I don't want it. You know, so but yeah, no, it's.
Here's the thing that I
That's the interesting part here. Is like I said, I didn't want to go and include every single day one journal entry. I felt like there was no need.
Oh,
just
sure.
to clarify that.
No, I mean, just looking at the dates, you can see how active. I mean, you can see, okay, he has a journal here, his journal entry there, so it shows how active he was. I really want to get to page 3, but I keep going, I keep going back to page 2 because there's some good stuff here to really say, okay, I want to think about why did he start this on April 13th? You know, what would, like you were saying, what was so special here? Did he already kind of had he already talked to the mics? Did he already kind of know? Was he getting feelers? Maybe there was a working deal. Maybe there was something that was going to happen. I mean, everything from August 7th, 2012. Once that trailer is made, once the Gray State concept trailer is made, you know, a lot of things happen there. A lot of things start picking up here. He must have known something. There must have been a reason to really do this journal. Why start this journal now? Was the and why do it in this day one journal thing? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm only speculating. I'm only asking questions pretty much here. Why do this now? Why start this now? You know, it just seems there must be something there. The whole journal is fascinating. I'm fascinated by David Crowley's journal, but why he started it at this point here, and then looking at the things that he includes in his journal, I think is very relevant as to what he does put in and what he doesn't put in too to this journal here.
So, well, see, as to why he started it, I mean, he's trying to use it. I don't know exactly what got this into his head, but he describes it in his very, very first journal entry. You know, he wants just to get his thoughts down. He's tracking himself. He's tracking his adjustments in his life, whether it be minor things, you know, things that are going on.
Right.
He's just trying to jot things down, not necessarily as they happen, but a general kind of when they happen, right? Mm-hmm. And he's trying to keep track of himself, and he says it in his very first journal entry. He wants to, as he explains later in his journal entries, that he wants to use, you know, he wants to catalog this as a way, also for, it almost seems like for Rania, as kind of like who her dad was, right? How he adjusted, why he adjusted, the way he adjusted, things like this.
Do you think it's to get over this fear of writing? I mean, every writer has that fear, and it's interesting. The first thing that he says in his journal, he focuses on that fear of writing, like he's trying to conquer this fear that he has of writing, knowing that he may really be a good writer. He may have some future in writing, and he needs to conquer this fear.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the strongest writer by any means. Sure. We know this, but at the same time, you know, he admits to a lot of this in here. He's like, look, you know,
he's on
an
iPhone.
Everybody has a fear of it.
He starts on an iPhone.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's talking about, you know, I'm just trying to just jot some things down, essentially, you know, and he's like, I want to make sure I'm getting this out here. This should help me with. It seems like he's basically saying this will also help him with his own writing as well. Right. You know, getting some things out there, and then he's not spell checking even right now. Why is he not spell checking it? Well, because, you know, it's just easier just get it down, and then he can always read it later, and he can make sense of it. Whether he wants to rewrite it or whatnot, you know. But he thinks that reflecting could be of a value to him. And, you know, honestly, I think there's a lot of people that through journal writing it does help. They get a lot of I'm trying to think of the term for it, but basically they're able to look at themselves and be like, okay, what the hell, you know, or oh, okay, this is why I was feeling this way, or hey, I'm not sure why was I feeling this way, and they can go and piece some things together. Why did they do maybe something that they might be looking at later on, and be like, well, wait a second, this looks rather illogical. Why would I do this? They can go through the journal and actually see directly why they did it potentially. There's a lot of reasons why people start a journal, and for him, I think there's probably a numerous amount of things kind of going through his head as to why he needs to start one.
Catherine, any thoughts on why he may have started this journal Sunday, April 13th, 2014 at 7:39, and why the first thing he writes.
I
Fear
don't
of
know
writing.
if the date itself is of any relevance, but
Yeah.
just reading this here right now is, I agree with what William was saying. I think a lot of what he was doing was for introspection. And as a writer, you're just told to write anything. And it doesn't even have to make sense. Just write something. And I think that's what he was trying to start doing. And at this particular time, he was feeling nostalgic, I think, is what he was saying, and just started writing down whatever was in his head. And I think it was just, yeah, just to get the act of writing going.
Yeah, it's probably just. I mean, it could very well just be just. I mean, we'd have to go and look, but I mean, you can always track this to some degree. Does this help him with his writing, right? Maybe for that day, maybe he does this as like an exercise before he begins his writing process. I've heard of that as well. I know when I was in high school, a lot of my writing teachers, or rather English teachers, if you will, they would have us do that. We'd have to go and there would be like write a page about this topic here. You have 10 minutes, right? Get as much as you can down, but at least get a page. And that was just an exercise for a writing assignment. And they even told us it's a good thing to do, even when we're writing at home. When we're writing, any kind of, when we go to college, if we go to college, if we're going to write any kind of book or anything like this, it's a good thing just to do, just because then it gets your mind going. It's kind of like starting up that engine. You're kind of priming it, right? Just like a lawnmower. You got to prime it to go to start it, right? Well, you're going to get your better workout is essentially what I was always taught about it.
Right, and you can't get better if you don't do it. Because when I took creative writing in college, it was the same thing what you were saying. Oftentimes the teacher just said, okay, I don't care what you write, just send it, you have to have one page done by tomorrow. And it could be utter nonsense, just the fact that you had words down on a paper. But then taking the writing classes for the books that I've been writing, the professionals state you need to write every day. You get something down, write. If it's a journal, if it's more of a story, just write. And I see a lot of that in David, and that's where I really think a lot of all this stems, is he was just trying to get in the habit of writing, because he can't get better if he doesn't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and even then, I think we can kind of reflect on the scripts too. If we look at it, like you talked about earlier with the flow, this is something you can see. It flows way better. I don't think it's just because there's like two different voices in it. It just the flow of the story itself. And I don't, like I said, I don't think it was just because it's the two different voices in it. I really feel like it was like those two were kind of going hand in hand, just kind of just picking up, one step after the other together. There's a few stumbles, sure, but with this other script, you do get to see that it flows. It's just like, one step after the other, but it's one person doing it rather than two.
Well, and the whole thing is it does make a difference. And,
Right.
People write differently, they think differently. You can have the same character and have two people write it and try to put it together, and you're going to be able to tell the difference, because it just flowed differently. And so, yeah, and that's why I'm saying you can absolutely tell by the time it's all said and done, it was completely David's work.
Right.
And so, but as far as why did he start the journal on the 13th, not sure why he chose that date. I think he just sat there and said, okay, I'm feeling something at the moment. I need to do it, so let me just start typing this in the journal.
Well, we should probably find out too when David got his stuff back from Linda Seeger. Maybe he got it at a later date.
Is that available? Because that would be interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, it just depends. Maybe that was a suggestion. Maybe she was like, well, I see this as like, and maybe she didn't know it was two people writing. Maybe she was just like, well, this is the flow here. It's not here. It's like it goes, goes this way, but then it goes this way, and it goes this way, and then it goes this way. And maybe that was something she suggested. I mean, she is, an accredited writer, so I mean, I think that would be probably something she probably threw at him. Like, look, we can make your writing better through this simple step here, but then at the same time, maybe consider these critiques as well. Do what you can with it.
And you have to listen to the professionals, because I attend the Pikes Peak Writers event that takes place in the Springs every year. And these come from professional writers. We're talking top-notch writers, people you read every day. And when these professionals are telling you, you can't get it done, you need to write, and you really need to listen as a writer. Go, okay, well, if the professionals are telling me to do it, I got to do it. And I really see kind of where David really picked up with that, and he really tried hard. Even if you don't feel like it, there are going to be days as a writer when you're like going, I don't want to, I don't feel inspired. You know what? It doesn't matter if you're going to get it done. A lot of these, we're talking top-notch writers, Stephen King, James Patterson, all of these, what's his name, Clive Cussler. These writers, there's no such thing as writer's block. If you get to that point, you still have to force yourself to do it. And I really see a lot of David going in that direction, and I see that his journaling helped him along that path. Not only to go back and see what his life was like and to reflect on who he was, where his emotions were at a time, but then to get into the habit of writing. And it got better the further along he went.
I feel like you didn't include R.L. Stein, I'm just kidding.
Oh, who's that? I don't think I've heard of him.
Oh, terrible. But oh man, terrible dad joke even maybe. But still, but no, it's I think you're 100% right on this. I think we get to see this evolution. But the other thing I also think would be kind of interesting to do too, that I'm gonna probably have to go and put this together. If you guys want to help me, it'd be fantastic. But is looking at when he was writing, based on what he says in his journal, when he was actually writing on the script, and then compare when he's writing these journals. Like, is he writing that day, or is he talking about writing that day? Things like this, and seeing how often he's talking about actually writing, the script.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Well, but think about it this way. This is how I see it. He could be writing that day, but not even touching the script. He might talk about wanting to, planned even to have written the script, but he just couldn't do it. I know there's like 1 or 2 days where he talks about something happens. He's just like, I can't write the script right now. I can't work on this. But he puts that down in journal entry form, or format. So it's one of those things that if we can kind of tie that in, well, how much did he actually, or when did he really when this journal entry started? How much of this did he actually devote to the script itself?
Yeah, because toward the end, you're right. Toward the end, he's like, man, I had a great writing day. I finally tightened it up, and it's all done. And yeah, so that would be interesting.
Right. So, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's not. I don't know.
Can't hurt. You never know till you put it down.
Right. Sometimes you just kind of got to go and start the science on it. Let's go and look. Let's just put it to pen and paper, and does this work?
Yep.
And I got a feeling there's some stuff here that probably means something. It might mean a lot more than we're even thinking. So who knows? But quick question also. This is definitely off topic to a degree. But I was curious. There's this image that I just recently saw. I hate to bring the other group up, I really do, but they posted this image. I'm not sure. I've never seen this anywhere, but they're trying to say it's day one journal entry. It's got a list. Let me bring it up right now, and I'll go and read exactly what it says. And it says David's journals. And then it's got a picture of what looks to be a hand-drawn, little kid's photo. And it's got the title on it, Video Buddy, and then www.videobuddy.com. But that has a bunch of these names on here, and at the very top of it, it says The Purge. And it says, and there's some names crossed off. You can see some of them that are crossed off are Dad, Dan, I think it looks like Keith, maybe, I don't know, but there's some names crossed off here. But it's the other things that are on here are BX, Hate F, okay, I'm obviously not going to say that word here, but Building something, and then there's Joe. There is, I can't see this one, maybe it's David, I don't know. Weed as a reward, money, K's contacts, pursuit of K, and Danny. I found that a little interesting. Have you guys ever seen this?
That's weird.
I don't know. I haven't. I don't even see it now, so I have no idea.
Well, I
But
will send it to you guys on Facebook, and you guys
okay.
can see.
Well,
And let me
I'm
know.
not on Facebook. Well, maybe I'll go back on Facebook later. Go. Yes, please go ahead. I don't know if it'll show up until I go back on. But does it look like his writing? And is it taken out of context?
I haven't. I just saw it like
Oh, okay.
20 minutes ago. So it's one of those things. I'm gonna have to go and compare to it, and I might have to switch off my JFK topic tonight. Really looking forward to it. But
Oh,
all right,
JFK,
well, might
that's a
have
great
to.
one.
So, just is this misinformation or not? I haven't even compared the handwriting. I do have a cipher, so I can actually already do that. So it'll take me just a few minutes to do at most, but it does. At first glance, it does kind of look like it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, but I mean, and if it's something he was writing and it's just one page and it's taken completely out of context and we don't see everything it's with, then I think that's dangerous. And far too many people do that with this case. They'll take one thing where it sounds really bad and go, "See, this is our narrative. It proves our narrative." And when you look at the entire picture, it's like, no, it's not. It means something totally different.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like I every now and then I do go to the other page to go and look and see what exactly they're talking about. How much crap do they talk about me?
Yeah.
I mean, has my nickname changed? Has anybody's nicknames changed? It's always funny to see, but it's at the same time, it's just like I'm looking. Okay, well, how much are they talking crap now? It's something I don't like to do, but I do find myself going there every now and then, especially when I'm bored. They're not exactly the most thrilling individuals. So
Where is
Oh
this?
no,
This
they
is-
have
this
they
is
have
not-
filled up my my binder with tracking information about what they say, the libel and slander.
right.
I'm
And
telling you, and that was the police officers who told me. They're like, start keeping track. Just keep track. Don't say anything. I'm like, that was the best advice I ever received.
Well, this
Right.
this image you're
Well,
sharing.
but
where
it's
is-
sometimes
where is
they'll
this
say
image
some
from?
things. It's like, well, okay, interesting. I'll go and I'm going to look into this as I'm curious now. They'll pique my curiosity every now and then. Just like people in the group, they'll say something like, well, what does this mean exactly? Well, it piques my curiosity.
Okay,
you know,
where
just
where
like,
in David's journal
I
is,
think
is
it was.
this, is this from?
So I was talking about the bodies with mold at one point, and then Sophia is the one who actually brought it to my attention about the in the autopsy report. So I looked into it, and sure enough, I had to go learn all about that. And I was like, it's nice to know. It's like, holy crap, this is interesting here. And so I take anything even the other group says. I'm like, all right, well, let's go and what does this mean that they're saying here? If they're actually showing something, they're trying to present something. Very, very few and far between, obviously, but it's they usually just kind of repeat same things, name calling and all this, but every now and then they'll present something that they're trying to go, oh, this proves this. Does it though? And so look at it, and it's like, well, let's break it down and let's go and see. And so that way, if they ever do decide to man up and actually, or sorry, I don't know what you'd call it now. I guess man
You
up.
can
is
say man
to
up.
some people. No, I'm just saying to those people. Person up, if they just took the time to man up and actually come into this discussion, let's go and have this discussion. I'm done. I mean, I've been done trying. I've tried. I think most of us have tried to have a discussion, even on their own grounds, and they're like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
But I actually wanted to man up and have a discussion about this. Is fine. I would have a discussion with them, but also I'm not going to let myself, waste time like I did, that one night,
Right.
waiting a whole stream for that one person. But that's besides the point. It's something I do find interesting. I do want to have these talking points. I want to be able to go and come from their perspective. Hey, why would they say this? And there have been very, very few times, but they have had those times where it's like, okay, they bring something up. I should look into this so I at least have the answer, so I can answer this question. And that picture, I've never seen it, not once, ever. But it's also like that whole thing with Chris Peck's number. where was this message from? And
Okay, so
of course,
where
they don't
this
want to
this
answer.
picture
Like, well,
will
it doesn't matter. We don't have to divulge this. The police said this or this. This was said. So,
so where is this picture from?
the first I've seen it was actually from,
This is not in David's journal.
yeah, I've never seen it.
Could
Not
you
once.
email that to me?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna put it up
I'll
on,
do that right now.
screen here.
Thanks.
This is not in David's. Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen this somewhere before, but this is not in David's journal here. And this, I don't know what this would even show here. What this would have to do with anything, but yeah, I do remember somebody bringing up it was the names that were crossed off and the names that weren't crossed off or something like that. But this is, yeah, I have no idea what this is, what this would have to do, why somebody would write this
I
way.
thought for sure in one of his not journals, I'm sorry. Oh, that's not what I saw at all. But in like the notebooks or something, he had a list of things and he was crossing off as he was getting it done. He had notes about rewriting, taking out the F word too much or taking out Jesus too much, and
Yeah,
but that's
not anything related to what this is.
Interesting.
This looks more like copy paste type stuff or something. But that just seems like more things like, what does this have to do with anything here? I don't know. I'd be curious to see what this is, where this came from, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously, it wasn't relevant to anything. So I don't know.
Right. That's why I'm curious where this came from.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to
could've
know because
created.
are we seeing another repeat of things that were manufactured, or are we seeing something that's maybe we didn't get?
Sure.
That's my question at this point. So obviously I'm gonna have to go and cancel JFK again. Damn it.
That just seems like
so I'm
something.
curious.
Yeah, that
So
seems like
I'll-
another
yeah,
red
so-
red herring to kind of throw you off of more important things.
Well, right. Instead of having all of our focus on the case itself, it's throwing all this additional things out there. Is this real or not? Now we have to go and figure this out. Is this real? So I'll go ahead. I'll go figure it out tonight. We'll see. We'll see.
And I want to kind of add to it because it's what you were just saying a bit ago. When they pull stuff like this, they have no idea how much they're actually helping us show the innocence of David. Because when they do this and we have to go digging, 9 times out of 10 we find far more information we probably would have never looked hard to find in the first place because it's information we skim over.
Right.
And for me, it was the bullets. And I'm telling you, when they made me go dig through that report and I start putting this stuff together, I never would have found the section on that report that stated poor reproducibility in their own testifiers.
Right.
And that is huge.
It is.
So it's like, thank you. You guys keep it up. You're only helping us.
Right. Yeah. And they're the ones that are trying to I'm not sure what their agenda is exactly, but it does.
They have helped so much. It's not even funny. It's like we owe a debt of gratitude.
Yeah. We'll give them a writing credit.
Yep. There you go. Research and development credit.
I'll start up. I might even include them on timeline. Thank you, other group.
There you go.
Fool group, the Judies.
Too much.
But yeah, that's the really interesting part is they're, we see that they're always calling us the injustice group. They're always saying we're the ones spreading disinformation, but yet we're the ones. All we're doing is asking questions and doing the research. Is all we're doing, and the timeline exposes a ton of the things they were trying to say. Well, this is when this happened. This is when this happened. No, I'm sorry. We've got the information. We've got the actual timeline here. We know this isn't true. We've got the same data you guys have got on this, and what do we find? Oh, that you guys are actually 110% incorrect. So, it's like, for instance, the Joe Seaton relationship. We get to see this all fall apart through this. Yet, you see on a Gray State that he's trying to go and portray himself as this great friend, and he was a good friend of the Crowley family and all this. He really wasn't. Mason Hendricks portraying himself as this great friend of the Crowley family. Where do we really see him pop up? Well, that's right, March.
Yeah, and same with Sean Wright. Look what Sean's like, I was his best friend, and I would always stay over there. And then in the journal, David's like, this jerk is getting on my couch, and I want him gone. Get him out of here.
Right.
He's like, I already know. Anytime he's calling or texting, this is what he wants, and he'll be on the way over
as
Yeah.
he's doing this. It's like, what the hell? And he's irritated with a lot of these guys. He's like, these guys are just mooches, is all they are.
Yep.
And so he's trying. Obviously, you're seeing he's trying to get rid of him. Well, the question is, what sparked this whole like aha moment for him?
Right.
And I think, like I said, I think we're going to be able to see some things like dates and all this, dates and times are going to pop up through the phone record on the older timeline rather, or old phone numbers, and they're going to actually show off when this was. But then it's going to be up to research, to why this occurred. There's going to be a lot of speculation, I'm sure. I would probably argue it's going to be mostly speculation, but I'm sure we're going to be able to find some things. Why did these relationships fall apart? What caused this? What was the catalyst to this?
Right.
And I would guess most of this comes down to the script. There was, we got to see that what did Sean Wright request of David, for instance? He wanted $50,000, a year if he was in and he'll go and build his sets and do whatever else he needs for $50,000 a year.
Nice guy.
You've got Adam Shambor, who's not even really part of this production at all, and he's trying to go and piggyback on this. He talks about that. He even refers to him having monkey arms or something like this. He's literally bashing on these guys throughout his journal. These were not friends of his.
Nope.
So he does say that a few of them are good people, but they're not good for him and his family. And so that's why he's moving away from them. And the thing is you see him really bad-mouthing three people really a whole lot. Joe Seaton, Danny August Mason, and Sean Wright. But at the same time, I believe Danny August Mason says, well, I believe at one point he says something about him being like he's a good person, kind of, I believe, at one point before he says basically, he either needs to join him or he's a destroyer. I believe he puts him in the category of good person without really knowing that he's kind of just a deceitful person.
Yeah,
So-
when he starts to see Dam's real personality is when David just finally, and it seems in his writing, he's like, okay, that's it.
Right.
I'm cutting this guy off.
Right. Oh, your the timeline just came off the screen.
Yeah, I was trying to get to May 16th here, where you were talking about Seaton. I think that's... let's see, did I pass it here? Those are some of the big things here. Like, what we are doing here, what we're talking about here, is the other side. We are the other side here, okay? These
Right.
people have been able to slander David Crowley, have gotten into the whole mainstream news. They've been able to pretty much say whatever they want about David Crowley, but yet when we look at this and we look at this stuff, we can clearly see that there is a whole nother side to this. So arguing with people from some other group, they're not even relevant. What is to me, what is relevant is what has been said in the mainstream about David Crowley, what these people have said, these people that have been in Eric Nelson's film, that have slandered David Crowley, their friend, and what they've said, and yet we are able to find David Crowley's actual documents. We're able to find all of this stuff that completely contradicts everything that they are saying. And so then you have these other people that try to throw us off of those trails, try to throw people that are looking into this off of those trails when they're not even relevant to this. The only reason why a guy like Joseph Seaton, why Sean Wright, Mason, why they're relevant is because of their lies about David Crowley. It makes them relevant because it's easy to disprove it. And a lot of that is from David Crowley's journal, from his own words here, like you've said. So, yeah, I think that's where the real focus really needs to, be, not on anything else, but to kind of recognize that there is the side that has been on these mainstream news media, et cetera, on these films, and then there's what really happened, and there's a lot of evidence that shows that what they're saying is just absolutely not true, and a lot of that does come from David Crowley's own journal.
Right.
Well, and there, like I said before, and it's going to keep going back to this, obviously, because we're trying to get this all in the timeline. But the phone records, they're going to say a whole lot. I mean, just to go and bring something up that Jet had brought up recently about the couch. That's not the same couch. We get to see the transition through these photos, and that's what I thought was really, really fascinating too. Is he had so many photos in this journal.
Right.
They also show a picture as well. Like they also have some kind of a story to it as well. We get to see when they get a new couch, for instance. We get to see when they place the rug on the floor. We get to see the outline of their house. We get to see a picture of what their house is looking like. I do apologize for my background noise,
okay.
of course.
All right.
But it's one of those things. We get to see what their house looked like prior to their murders. Let's just call it as it is. They're murders. And that's the other part. It's like putting that picture together. What did their house really look like prior to the murders? Where was everything at? Where were the dog bowls, for instance? Where was the couch? Where was the rug? Where was the lamp? Where was everything? We get to see this too. So, the journal it's very, very powerful tool for this investigation. On top of that, then the phone records, you're going to be able to see some things that coincide with the journal. For instance, conversations with Joe Seaton, we get to see they drop off entirely at a certain point. He's not really that close to David, and David caught on really, really early that he just does not like this guy, and that he's just going to be nothing but problems. And you get to see these things, and when they coincide together like that, it's a beautiful thing. It really is, because now we get this vivid picture of everything is kind of put together. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very important time here, because this is right after David comes back from pretty much making a Hollywood deal where they're gonna, try to make Gray State into a film, and then all of a sudden this guy Joseph Seaton pops up here, and in the Gray State film, Eric Nelson's film, Joseph Seaton kind of pops up there and blah blah blah, and then there's questions about his rank, who he really is, etc., etc. He's had some other dealings and everything, so it's really interesting. The whole timeline kind of shows where David is really, especially at this point here in May of 2014. I mean, this is a critical point here. David has made some type of a deal. They are going to move forward with this. Gray State, at this point, they are going to try to make this into a feature film. And so everything that happens after that, and how the people that David knew that were working with him previously, that all of a sudden pop up into his life, like Joseph Seaton, this is all very relevant, very, very critical. Everything that happens between this time here, because I mean, we're talking about a very short time between May and December of 2014, when they're all basically dead. When everyone says that they're all dead by December 25th, December 26th, whatever you want to think. They all think that the whole family is pretty much dead by that point. And this is a very short span from the time that David has a working deal. I can totally understand why so many people would think, well, it has to be tied. All of a sudden, he has a working deal. A couple months later, David Crowley is dead. I mean, you have to look into that. You have to take that seriously, not just write it off.
Exactly.
So maybe we'll end it right there, right here at May 16th, 2014. Unless anyone has any final words here, we'll kind of.
Nope, I don't. I think you guys covered it all.
Yeah, this is exactly why it takes so long, is there's so much here. And that's the thing, is it might look like a simple thing when it comes to these, but it's like there's so many questions and so many things that are unanswered, even though like this is literally all we have. So we have all these questions, and it's like we're trying to get all these things answered and put together. There's like I just said, there's a lot more to it than just day one journal entry and then this is what happened. there's more going on. You know, there's a lot more questions. So
Yeah, and this is all good because this gives us stuff from David's own view, from his quotes. I mean, we have his actual quotes here. We have everything that has happened here. And there's going to be questions about when the journal ends. We already know, we've already seen here. We have questions about when the journal started. But looking at the document that we have, you can clearly see when the journal started and when it ended is very different than what we've been told. That doesn't make sense either. So if the police reports are saying the journal ended on a certain date, but yet we have the journal and it ends on a later date, that does not make sense. There's something wrong here. Everything should line up. If it's truth, the truth does not change. It lines up with everything. So it just seems like the more documents, the more stuff that we get, the truth does not line up here. But this is a real document. This is David's real journal here. I would go by this. I wouldn't go by Alec Wilkinson's article. I wouldn't go by even what the police documents say at that point, because their documents are wrong as to when the journal ends. But we have all of that data here. That's why we're trying to give everybody what the data says, to go over exactly what that data says, and to make it so the public can look at it. So I don't have to get a phone call from a guy like Sean Wright and say, hey, this is what happened, and he's full of crap. I can actually look at the document and I can decide for myself. I mean, it didn't take me long to figure out he was full of crap, but maybe there's people out there that really take him seriously. I have no idea why. The guy is a compulsive liar. He's lied about so many different things. He is not a credible person, not a credible source. He is not a trustworthy person. He has a criminal record. He has a very abusive record. This guy is not somebody that David wanted to be tied to. Obviously, at some point, David realized that, along with all of these other people. But yet there are still people out there that want to be tied to a guy like Sean Wright. It does not make sense. And then it just happens that they all think that David Crowley is guilty too. Definitely something wrong with that. So I don't think next week, but maybe in 2 more weeks, maybe we'll come back and we'll continue on. Hey, we made it to page 3, so we'll continue on to page 4 next time. And William and Catherine and everyone in our chat room, I want to thank you all for joining us and for listening and for watching this. And God bless you all. Any final words here, William?
No, not really. Just tonight I'm going to be covering disinformation from this case again. Whether it be from the other group or elsewhere. Going to go and cover that as much as possible. So expect things like the Alec or Alex Wilkinson, whatever, Alley Boy, we'll call him that. We're going to go and cover his disinformation. We're going to cover the forged document. We're going to go and cover things like that. We're going to just go over as much as we can because it needs to be done again, obviously, because now I've got this journal entry I need to go and cover. Is this real or not? And I'll try and get as much information out of this as possible. And if this was the original photo, then maybe we'll be able to get some information off the file itself. So I'm going to go and do some digging, and we'll see what we can find. But this timeline is going to be, it's like I always say, this timeline is going to be the driving force of getting this case, or really clearing David's name. It's already done a number of things, and I already feel it clears his name, but for some people it doesn't. So we'll make sure everything is in there. Phone records, financial records, everything will be in there.
Yeah.
So people can quickly go over it and see, hey, impossible for David to have done this, right?
Yeah, and it's very valuable for people who are just like, let me go back to this one day, or they want to know more about something that happened on this certain day or this certain thing. So they can always go back for whatever they're researching, whatever they're looking into, right? Whatever their theory is or whatever, they can always go back to this document and they can cross-reference and see exactly what did happen on that day. If you think there's something very interesting that happened on that day, or if somebody is telling you something happened on that day, you can go back to this to this timeline and see if that thing really happened on that day or if it didn't. like Alec Wilkinson's article. So, Catherine, any final words here?
I just want to say thanks to both you and William for inviting me to join you guys on this live show. And I mean, I learned a lot, and I think we had a good discussion. And I'm looking forward to the next one. Whether I'm just listening or participating, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of great information here.
Awesome. All right, everybody, I'm going to shut this one down. God bless you all, and thank you everyone who is in our chat room for watching and taking